It's back in high school, probably,
The socks last night, or are the socks showing the dryer light? They're all wet.
All right.
That's the one thing that I should get. Like, if you want working one way,
Yes. Yeah, sweet. So we get going? All right. There's plenty of room up front, and they promised me they will not bite. So thanks for coming to Grand Rounds. We've canceled for July and August because it sounds like lots of people are doing different things, and so we'll give us the break for the summer. But to send us off into summer, less than a week or 2 weeks away from summer, lots of folks have indicated that they wanted to hear from the foundation, to hear a little bit more about what the foundation does, how they support the work here at the center. As they'll share with you, and I will strongly attest to, they're hugely important to us at the center and the work that we're doing, and have been for a very long time and continue to be. And this is really a collaborative relationship about how they can support the work that we're doing here and giving us support in ways that we would not traditionally receive it. So we're pretty fortunate at the university to have such a thing as a foundation. Other university sections and programs are in some ways pretty jealous of us having access to such support. So I think there are some folks remotely as well. So we have folks that are joining us remotely. You should be able to hear what you say. But hello, where's the camera? Hi. Thank you for joining us. They can't be here in person. So how many people do you think are on there? Like 35?
75, 82,000.
So thank you for joining remotely. But anyway, so we've asked them to come and talk a little about what they do, and then just to be able to answer any questions that you might have. So don't be shy. They, again, thank you for providing us lunch very much. We really appreciate that. And also, you all should have had an invitation to the annual board meeting that it's been opened up for everybody to be able to attend and come meet the board members. So they'll talk a little bit about that, but I just wanted to remind everybody of that. We've been talking about it for a while, but I think it's really important if people have the time and can make it over there to be able to be there and meet the board, members of the board, and talk a little about the hard work that you're doing. So thanks for coming, enjoy lunch, and thank you for spending time with us.
Well, I think most of you know me. John Fodden, the CEO of the foundation. As Julia said, this is kind of like church. Nobody wants to sit in front of you. Dr. Krugman, thank you. We truly appreciate it.
I'm hard of hearing.
We truly appreciate it. So we have a slide that we use often that gives Dr. Kemp's history, and I'm going to assume that you all know that he started the Child Protection Team in 58, 62, the Battered Child Syndrome article, 72 he started the Kemp Center, and in 76 he started the Kemp Foundation. I'm going to talk about the Kemp Foundation, some of the history of the Kemp Foundation, and then Julia's going to talk a bit more detail of what we do in terms of fundraising and public policy. So I feel a little intimidated talking about the history with Dr. Krugman sitting here and Gail Ryan sitting there.
But we're both old enough to have forgotten everything.
Good. So you'll accept my version of the history?
No.
No. I'm sure I'll get interrupted. But this is my version. I didn't have the opportunity to meet Dr. Kemp, so a lot of my stuff is secondhand. What we talk about, and you've probably seen, that Dr. Kemp believed it would take more than just professionals to build healthy communities. It would take members of the community, important leaders in the community involved. And so
That microphone, they're not going to hear you if you stand over there.
okay. Can you hear me now? Yes? No?
Yes. up to
If you
someone else.
can be center or on the left, that would be wonderful.
Center on.
Or on my left.
I'm actually going to talk about some of the legacy photos over here, so I'll start over here.
Okay, that would
Is that
be
good?
great. Yeah, thank you.
As indicated, Dr. Kemp believed it would take questions, so that was one of the reasons that he established the Kemp Foundation. As I understand it, Dr. Krugman also believed that donors' dollars, philanthropic dollars, should be used for programs and shouldn't go for indirects. And so he was a bit troubled by the fact that state contracts, state grants go through the university and indirects are taken off the top. So he thought the donor dollars should go direct. At least my understanding, that's another reason for creating the Kemp Foundation. So the dollars come through the foundation and then go to the center. And so I said in '76, he started the foundation. Also, I think as a part of a justification for the university not getting a piece of these philanthropic dollars, that he, and I don't know if they purchased it outright at the time, but bought this old convent on Oneida Street. If you look over here, you've seen this building. If you ever wondered where the name come for the Oneida Conference Room, well, that's Oneida. And so that's where the Kemp Foundation started. I actually got involved with Kemp when they were still at Oneida. In the mid-1990s, I think most of you know, I'm an attorney by profession. I practiced environmental law. I had my own law firm, but I decided it was time to give back. And so what I knew is that when I read about or heard stories about child abuse, it hurt my heart. And so I knew that was the area that I wanted to give back. And so I checked around and I found Kemp. In fact, everything I heard about Kemp was fantastic. And I said, okay, I want to check this out. And I happened to know a couple of the board members. And as part of my environmental practice, I did quite a bit of public policy work at the legislature. And so those two board members said, John, you should come join our advocacy committee. So I think it was 95, I think that it's been too long ago. I joined the advocacy committee and I did that for a couple of years. And then I was elected. I've been on the board for over 20 years. And I don't know the exact reasons of why I was involved in, but I think part of it was the child protection team was located with Children's Hospital on Marion Street. And so the programs weren't together. And also I think the Oneida Street building was very small and there was a need to get more space. And so a decision was made to move over closer to Children's. So the foundation had a capital campaign, raised $4 million. And as you look over here, you've seen that campaign was finished in 1996. And in 1997, we moved into the building on Marion Street. That building was across from Children's Hospital. I think I can speak for all of us. It was a fantastic building. It was a standalone building. Had a lot of space. We rented some of the space out, and it was a very good situation for all of us. But at that, within the beginning about 2000, the Anschutz Medical Campus was born. My front pew is getting a little unruly. And certainly Dr. Krugman knows a lot about that, and I don't have a chance to go on his tours that he does at the campus, because he was very instrumental in getting this campus together. So that happened in the early 2000s. And then in 2007, Children's Hospital moved out here. And in 2008, University Hospital moved out here. So there were a lot of discussions within the Kemp Foundation, the Kemp Center, whether we should move or not. The ultimate decision was that it was very important for us to be close to Children's Hospital, close to the university, and really be a part of what this campus is now all about. So the decision was made that we would go ahead and move. The idea first was that we, again, would have a standalone building. But we weren't big enough. And so ultimately the decision was, or decision made for us, is we can't use land to have like a two-story building. We have to have much higher density on this campus. So that's how Gary Pavilion came about. You all may know this, but Gary Pavilion is a building owned by Children's Hospital. We basically own the first and second floors. Condominium space is the best way to think about it. So when we first moved here, we had 2 floors, and we have half of the 3rd floor. And in planning, we wanted to make sure we had plenty of space for growth of the center. So it didn't take very long after we got here, we said, well, we don't need quite this much space. So we ended up selling half of the 3rd floor we had back to Children's. And then over time, what we also found is because you have programs like Child Welfare Training System and Safe Care, that you have more people off-site, that we really didn't need all that space. So there were a couple of attempts at this. We decided that we should take this asset that we have and monetize it to, one, help the foundation, but also to help the center. So that was the reason for selling the 1st floor. And I will just say candidly to you also that the foundation over the years, my predecessors had created some debt, in fact, $1 million worth of debt. And so part of the proceeds of the sale of the 1st floor we used to pay off that debt. The proceeds are being used to support a improvement package for Catholic. It is providing impact grants. And so I think it's a very positive thing. And I know it caused a little heartburn and disruption with the center, but I think long term it bodes well for our programs and going forward. I need to push this through.
Yep.
I know I couldn't do this.
There you go.
It's always very confusing about the relationship between Children's Hospital and the university and the foundation. So a number of years ago, I put this together primarily for our board members to try to explain the organization. So on the far right, you see the University of Colorado School of Medicine. And then there's an affiliation agreement between the Department of Pediatrics, between Children's Hospital and the School of Medicine. That creates, basically, I call it joint Department of Pediatrics. Dr. Damas always corrects me when it says joint, because he says it's really under the university. But they operate through this affiliation agreement. Within that document, it says that there was an informal relationship between Children's Hospital and University for over 50 years. Then that was formalized in 1996. There was an agreement in 2001, and then this affiliation agreement is 2008. It spells out how they're going to work together. And then there are other agreements that do various details on providing doctors, etc. But this is the structure. So, so on the right, you get the School of Medicine. This CU Medicine Administration, that's really the administration of all the doctors. I don't know, Dick, I think a lot of the doctors, or most of the doctors, are provided to Children's Hospital.
Every physician and every department of the medical school bills and collects through CU Medicine.
And then, like I said, under this joint Department of Pediatrics, there are 24 sections and subsections. And one of those is the Kemp Center. And what I did is I put the child protection team, it's under the Department of Peds, but separately because it's a joint program with children, so I could draw this line over to Children's Hospital. And then you have the Kemp Foundation and the Children's Hospital Foundation, separate 501c3s that provide dollars to those things. So that's the overview. I will take any questions before Julia starts, or Dick or Gail, if I misspoke, jump in.
Well, I can say that having been there in '76 when they started the board, it was originally called Friends of the Center, and it was really just a receivership. They didn't really do fundraising. They just received donations that came to Dr. Kemp.
Henry would call Bob Glazer at the Kaiser Family Foundation and say, Bob, I need money, and Bob would send $300,000 to the Friends of the Kemp Center. Bob Glazer actually was dean of the medical school here from 1958 to 1963 before he went to WashU in St. Louis. But there were 5 people on the board, and they met quarterly, basically to run this show.
In the
And
library.
they had meetings in the library, they'll provide cookies and drinks. And that 300,000 was actually my recruitment package, in part, when I took the job in 81. And Henry said, I wish it could have been a bigger dowry, but that was it. And it came through the Friends, and it lasted 1 year before it disappeared. And then we actually turned what was a little holding organization into a fundraising machine, which with our first executive director, she decided to do a sweepstakes 10K race, getting a Pontiac from Sus Pontiac donated as the prize, except she really didn't get it donated. And so we only lost $19,000 after we paid for the car and everything. That was the nadir, and then it turned around and picked up. And then the board, they found eventually, got very good at fundraising.
And changed names over time, so it hasn't been always the Kemp Foundation for a long time.
It was the Friends of the C. Henry Kemp National Center for the Prevention and Treatment of Child Abuse and Neglect.
So we shortened
It's the longest name.
Well, and before that, it was the Friends of the National Center. It wasn't the C. Henry Kemp.
Well, that's right. That became 84.
Okay, moving on. What's qualitative? So any questions, just general, like I said, Julia's going to talk more detail about what we do, how we think we do it. Okay, Julia.
I think we're over here. Or middle too, you can.
Okay. Like,
Because the audio's like these two.
fabulous.
So.
All right. So I'm Julia Stone. I actually came to the foundation through the board of directors. So I am an accountant by training. I was a CPA doing audit and accounting work for mostly nonprofits, local governments, that kind of thing in Colorado. I was asked to be a member of the finance committee. I did that for 6-9 months, something like that. And as part of the finance committee, established the audit committee. And as the chair of the audit committee, then became a board member. And then after maybe 6 months on the board, the position of chief operating officer, I think that's what it was originally. It's a little different now, but I was asked to come into that role. And so I've been here since 2012. So kind of a long time. I'll talk a little bit about how we see, the different buckets of the foundation versus, obviously, what your buckets are, but from our standpoint, we are a separate 501c3 nonprofit organization, which means we have very separate rules that we govern or operate under. We have to file a Form 990 every year. We have various registrations we have to do with the state, those kinds of things. So very separate. Our employees are separate, obviously, from the Kemp Center. And we have a board of directors. So we report to a board of directors, which can have up to 32, I believe, in our bylaws. Right now, we have about 16. And I'll get to that slide in a bit, but our board is made up of mostly professionals and community leaders. So the professionals, a lot of attorneys, a lot of accountants. And then we also have 4 ex officio members. And the ex officio members are people who have that position on the board because of their position with other organizations. So like John is a member of the board as being the CEO of the foundation. Kathy is a member of our board as being executive director of the center. Steve Daniels, and then John Riley as the dean. So those positions would change based on if people change, because Dr. Krugman used to be in that position when he was the dean. So we have a board we report to. We have pretty much monthly meetings, provide financial information, provide whatever we're doing within advocacy, whatever we're doing in development. Kathy comes and does a report about the Kemp Center. So they are very apprised of what is going on. Obviously our mission, increase public awareness, engage in advocacy, and to provide and secure resources for the prevention and treatment of child abuse and neglect. So a little bit about that secure and provide resources. A lot of what we do is fundraising. I think all of you have met Denise, Director of Development for this foundation. We do all kinds of things. We do an annual event. Lately it's been a luncheon. Previously it had been a dinner. Prior to that it had been a gala. Sounds like we had bike rides, we've had races. I mean, we've done all kinds of things, but right now we're really focused on that one main event and then also a golf event. So maybe, 7, 8 years ago we started a golf event. I think it was right about when I came on board. And it was something that kind of caught on. Now it's changed into a Top Golf event. So we're able to get more people to come to that. And the reason events are really important to the foundation, our fundraising, is because it's a really good way for us to get corporate dollars. So you get corporate sponsorships. They're not necessarily just going to make a direct donation, but they'll say, yes, we'll come and sponsor your event. You'll put our logo on something. We can bring our people. The other way that you can get a lot of corporate donations is through volunteer opportunities, and we don't have that here. It's very difficult to find those kinds of opportunities for people to come and work at the center. Even though lots of them want to try to do that, we just don't have that available. So really the events become that kind of touch base for those corporations. We also do fundraising through direct mail. So we send out postcards, we send out newsletters, we send out appeal letters. We also do a lot of e-blasts. Some of you are probably on our lists. If you're not, let us know if you want to be on them. We do various different ones. We're actually moving into, in July, we're going to be doing kind of a every other week e-blast newsletter that'll have our events. So it's more of a concerted effort to be more formalized in our e-messaging. We also have social media. We also, we have LinkedIn, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, exactly, all that stuff that apparently you have to have. So, trying to think what else. Oh, also under fundraising, we do apply for some government grants. So Arapahoe County is one we've applied for in the past. Right now we have a grant for Fostering Healthy Futures through the state, the Tony Gramscis program. And then another really big area where we do fundraising work is under foundation grants. So we apply to local foundations. Hopefully they're ones that fit with what we're doing. Sometimes they change. We actually just met with Rose Community Foundation not long ago, and they said, we've spent all the money for this year and we're changing our direction. We're going to strategize and change. So come back to us in a year and we'll tell you if you're a fit or not. So we're looking at those opportunities all the time, but they are changing and they are narrow in some cases. And in some cases where there's places that have funded us in the past, they're now changing what they're funding. So, and then on the reverse of that, we might have other people that are opening up their funding. So that's kind of our fundraising in a nutshell. Denise, anything you want to add to that?
The appeals and the
Yeah, Colorado Gives Day, which is kind of an event, online giving event. December 10th, I think, this year. Yeah. Something like that. Not to be confused with Giving Tuesday. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why they changed that. And then the other thing, we engage in advocacy. And I think you heard John say he first came into Kemp because he was part of the advocacy committee. So I'm going to let you chat a little bit about advocacy.
Well, we engage in advocacy for two aspects of it. One is
Just because I don't want them to go to hear you.
one is public awareness, because the more we let the public know about child abuse and neglect, the more we let them know the work that you all do, then the more engagement that we have, and possibly get more dollars as well. But just the idea of having more people aware of child abuse and neglect and looking for ways in which they might help. And then the second is public policy. We have been very active in public policy for the last 15 years. We're very engaged with a number of stakeholders. What we look for each year is trying to find an initiative of some kind that we can do. I mean, years ago, we started a bill that we did with trying to make sure that children in the child welfare system received mental health assessments and then services. We got that bill passed. Unfortunately, it was in 2008, and the money went away, and it was never funded. And I'm sure you've seen some information that has come out this year of House Bill 1133, which is the Child Abuse Response and Evaluation Network. Dr. Wells worked on it a lot. Antonia worked on it a lot. We all worked on it for about a year. Worked very hard at putting this together. I think you know, really pleased to announce that it's passed. And we got unanimous votes in both chambers of the legislature, in the House and the Senate, which I think is really a tribute to the great work that you all do, but also the fact that we work very hard to be bipartisan. So we try to make sure that we engage both parties and try to make sure that what we're talking about really gets everybody involved. So CARE Network.
And the governor signed it.
Governor signed. The CARE Network is going to create throughout Colorado. If you don't know, if I'm saying stuff you really know, stop me. But and Kathy can talk more about this. But it creates providers throughout the state, both in terms of doing medical exams for suspected child abuse and neglect, and also we're going to do behavioral health assessments. Probably not in every county, but in each region, there is going to be a go-to expert. And the way it is set up, it's going to be under the Department of Public Health and Environment, as it's going to be the home agency. But the Kemp Center is going to be the resource center. As the resource center is going to implement this program, both in terms of recruiting the providers, and then the education and training of the providers, and really making this system work. But being a resource center, we think, also creates a platform for a lot of the other work you do. Yes, the CARE Network is going to be the base of this, or the foundation of this, but a lot of other work can come through this platform. And a big part of this is the education and training. Casey Senator back is to train the providers through EchoCam, through what you know in adult learning, through the child welfare training system. It is going to be a great opportunity to use the tools that we know, training them. And we had a little hard time finding a home for this at the start. Talking to Human Services, they said, well, we have to deal with the counties, and that's going to be a bit of a problem. And so ultimately went to Department of Public Health and Environment. As you may know, their interest is health. And so they said, we are not really service providers, and this is a service by providing the medical exams and behavioral health assessments. It's a service, but if you can bring health to this, then we're interested. So the education and training is going to be broader than just the medical exams and behavioral health assessments. The training is going to be about the risks that may lead to child abuse and neglect, and the resources available for families to use those. Department of Public Health and Environment said, great, we're in. So that's going to be the home. And working with Rob, this is going to be an intra-agency agreement. I read in the article that just came out in the Colorado Sun that it's going to be an RFP, but there's not. It's going to be, the Kemp Center is going to be the resource center that's going to do this. So that's an example of the kinds of things that we want to accomplish. We've also, been very involved the last 6-7 years in marijuana issues, trying to make sure that kids are protected from stopping the sale of gummy bears that are injected with THC and other risks to children. Not just us, but working with a number of stakeholders. But that, to me, that's only a piece of it. It's really doing the kinds of things that we just accomplished with the CARE Network. It's looking for ways to expand the work that you do, to use the work that you do, and really to grow it. When I first came in 5 years ago as the CEO, I had talked for years about trying to be more national, getting more involved nationally. And just to be honest, there it was really about getting money. There are a lot of people in the public policy area nationally, but it's about dealing with NIH and dealing with all the agencies and trying to figure out how we can get more money to come to the field of child abuse and neglect and money available to you all. We worked on that. I think we gained a lot. We did some congressional briefings, had very good exposure. But right now, we think our best work is going to be here. It's going to be in Colorado with Kathy's reputation and with the work you all do. I think we're going to see what we can do here and try to hit a lot of home runs. So that's, like I said, we think public policy is important, and that really started a number of years ago with the board. The board was fundraising, and they wanted to do more. They said, how do we do more child abuse and neglect? So that's where the idea of doing more advocacy really came about. I think it's how we do it as well. Okay. You have more to say?
We probably need to talk about impact grants. I think you spoke about that here in this group at some point.
Kathy only gave me about 2 minutes, so you can say anything you want to.
And before we go there, what I wanted to say for the provider network, just so people understand sort of the detail that the foundation helped with. When Tony and I began having conversations about this, just we were getting in the community that needed to happen. We, talked to the foundation, and they said, hey, we're happy to support you. Their ability to sort of leverage some relationships with a couple of people that gave insight into drafting the bill, floating with people to make sure that it wasn't, that people understood what we were trying to do and what we weren't trying to do, to think about where it sat, and the issue about where the funding comes through, being thoughtful about being a way to infuse prevention. And the other thing that I think is really important in terms of that as one thing, that is really going to be all hands on deck. Right, really frankly, I think of very few things here at the center that aren't going to potentially have an opportunity to engage in that process. And so, you're right in terms of it really being the basis for our resource center. This is a place where I think really tapping into a lot of the expertise we have and the partnerships we have here. So it would not have happened though truly without the foundation support and really helping us do something to craft the bill. To get it in front of people, to get sponsors that did a great job, including a freshman who was a PhD. That was a great thing for her as well. So, I can't thank the foundation, because this would not have happened without the foundation.
So 2 things I want to make sure I say. One is around the grant process. I was talking about fundraising and how we do fundraising. And I want to make it clear that we see this as a joint effort in terms of like grant applications and those things. So a lot of times the funders will ask us to complete something that looks very similar to the Colorado Common Grant application. That's something that we can easily fill in kind of the boilerplate parts of it, but we need the meat from you all. And so if we're applying for a grant, if there's something that you all see and want to apply for, we're happy to work on that together, do that as a team. The thing that they always ask for is outcomes. So what are the metrics? What are the outcomes? How many kids are you seeing, or how many people is this going to affect, and how do you prove that? Those kinds of things. So I would just say that every time we are asked to apply or we apply for something, those are things that we have to include. So as you're working through, applications and things like that, keep that in mind.
And I just wanted, so what we will do, what we do, we go out and we look at potential funders and what they'd like to do. We will make sure that Kathy is aware of those. She knows your programs, and say, well, maybe we should apply for this. I would say it has gotten very difficult. A lot of the funders have moved to early childhood development, education. Child maltreatment is kind of not at the top of the list, and so we have to work very hard to try to fit within their guidelines of what they're willing to fund. Doesn't mean we can't do it, but it's been very tough.
So I think that leads a little bit into impact grants. So John mentioned earlier that part of the sale proceeds from the first floor have been put into an impact grant program. So potentially a 5-year program from the foundation where we are accepting grant applications, acting as the funder. We've been through one round of that. After that first round, there were 3 impact grants that were awarded. 2 have been accepted. None of them were essentially awarded in full. So a couple had to go back and say, how can I tweak my program to make sure that this works? And what we learned in the process after meeting with everybody who had applied is that we have to make some tweaks to our process. So it was our first year kind of learning. So there will be some changes to that, I'm sure, but it was late fall, I think, that we put out the request for LOIs. So expect to see that again, and that we'll be talking to you all again about that as that comes up.
Yeah, just what we didn't make it clear was sort of the amount of money available. And so to fund an entire program really kind of eats it all up. And so what we're going to do in future, our guidelines will talk more about runway funding, seed money, how we can get you started on a program rather than saying get funding an entire program. That just limits it to maybe one program. We'd like to give more opportunity.
Any upcoming things? I know we had talked about signage or.
So hang on. I didn't put much in here. List of our board of directors. I don't think you all need to see that, but do know that it is on our website in case you are curious. And it shows where those people work and, kind of what their positions are on our board. And then before I forget, you all should have received the invitation to the board of directors reception, our annual reception, which is Tuesday, June 25th. It's at the Wellshore Event Center, which is on Colorado Boulevard. We'd love to have you all there. We will make sure our board members have, name tags that say board, so you know that they're a board member, and we'll encourage them to ask you all questions kind of about what's your role at the center. So you don't have to have any magic answers, just kind of talk about what you do and get to know each other. So that'll be following our year-end board meeting. So we actually have a meeting at the Wellshore from 4 to 5:30, and then we'll have the reception after. No fee, bring a guest, please join us. And let Monica know if you're coming. I'm sorry, and your question was things upcoming.
Yeah. So, well, for example, we've been waiting for those of you that have, so downstairs, the Jasmine Conference Room, when Children's, if I get this right, but when Children's purchased the first floor back, one of the things they did was move the child protection team to the front area. So if you've not seen that, check that out. Jesse is here representing you.
Yeah.
It's actually a really nice space. The conference room down there, despite the virtually no soundproofing in the conference room and the offices, which I have relayed, and we're going to do our best to address that. And Rob was going to talk about that, but it's a great conference room. For example, the sound issues, there's just built-in wiring, so if you're just talking in the room, it picks up everything. There is great technology, so I think we're waiting for them to work out all the kinks and bugs.
Some bugs that they need to figure out.
That
We agree on what the equipment's
But I think the hope is that ultimately, once they work through the bugs, then we would have to send some more technology. Is that right? So that's a piece in terms of even being able to use Zoom and virtually connect people in, being able to see each other a little bit better. There's always challenges when you have a bunch of people in a room and they're on the phones remotely, but some of those things I think will be a little easier.
Right. So yes. So bottom line, we are the landlords. Essentially, the foundation is the landlords. We have a purchase service agreement with Children's Hospital. So they provide janitorial service, they provide maintenance service, kind of on a limited basis. Things like that.
See, they call children.
Right. Lights, that kind of stuff they maintain. But we are trying to patch into their phone system, and I don't have the correct terminology, but that keeps getting delayed for various reasons. We probably are a ways out from that change at this point. We thought it was imminent, and then some roadblocks came up. So within the next year, things don't move as quickly as we'd like. And then the next step after that is we're going to start, once we have the AV equipment up. So we kind of phones, AV equipment, and then eventually get the signage all updated so that it makes sense. So those things are on the agenda. It's just the timing. being a little delayed. So I think that's kind of what you're referring to, those sorts of things. Monica's great if you have issues with copiers. I mean, we also are the ones who lease those, so that's our purview. So if you have any challenges with that, Monica or whatever, I mean, she's great. You all know. You figure that out. So any questions about building, fundraising, advocacy, anything else?
Thank you.
Anything you?
Couldn't have done it without you.
Things
That's
that are
right.
confusing or.
Right.
We'd love to have you at our events. We understand that sometimes it's a conflict or it's hard to take, 3-4 hours out of your day to go to a luncheon or whatever, but we'd love to have you all there. So we'll keep you apprised of anything coming up. Have a great ride coming up, the Courage
Yes,
Classic.
Courage Classic. We're doing 2 more training rides. Well, 1 more this weekend and 1 following weekend.
Mhm.
We've got a ways to go. It's funny, but we'll get there.
Right.
We have to.
We have to, exactly.
We have to. So there's still room if anyone would like to join the team, either physically or virtually, whichever you prefer. And you can register online through the Courage Classic site to search for the Kids for Kids team. So we just got to hit our $50,000 mark, and then all that money goes to Kids Center.
And is it true that I think if you volunteer, maybe it was just, so a couple of the people from the Crisis Center are volunteering, and they told me that their room is covered.
Oh, I don't know about that.
So I don't know for sure, but they said, oh, it's great, we're volunteering, their room is covered. I'm like, really?
I don't know, yeah.
So, people want to volunteer.
Yeah, if you want to, all that volunteer for the event goes through children. So we don't really have, they all wear the same shirts. I wanted to sneak in like everyone wearing camp shirts, but they won't let us. So
We tried.
we tried. So if you do want to volunteer, just go through the children's Courage Classic website. You can sign up there. And I don't know, maybe there is. There might be dorm housing. I don't know. But
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
but yeah, we're Lisa here.
No, I don't see.
She's volunteered to host our Friday night meal for our writers. I think at the condo John's with the people and I have, so which is small. And I think she said she'll do it Saturday night too, so we appreciate that. It's going to be great. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Go team.
For your oxygen.
Right, exactly.
Thank you for coming.
Of course, appreciate your time.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.